without the members that work here, we can't achieve anything. We can't build a car without them.
You don't build cars, you build people who build cars.
Already, we're looking at how we're using things like digital skills, how we're using AI.
And it's something that really blows organisations away. Why do Toyota invest time in giving people emotional intelligence training?
We don't have a management car park, we don't have a management restaurant or anything like that.
Everything you're saying is things that SMEs can do.
Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Let's Talk Lean with Toyota Lean Management Centre in collaboration with Lean Made Simple, myself, Paul Blahyj, and Ryan Tierney. Today, I'm really excited to have one of our general managers of Toyota. Now, we all know Lean's, a lot of it's about systems and how we can make people more efficient and process more efficient. But for me, Lean's also, more importantly, about people. So who better to talk about people within Lean than the general manager of human resource, Liam Oms. Liam, welcome. Thank you for joining us at the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Good. So Liam, one of the things I've first started to talk about, when we got together last week, we sat in the little pod there to discuss what type of things we're going to talk about. I said, what I'd like us to talk about is people development, how we manage and develop our people in Toyota. And you said to me, I could talk about that all day. Where does that passion come from?
Well, I've always had an interest in people, going back through my education. I chose at university, I took some subjects that were related to people and human resources. And I also did bits of marketing. At the end of my degree, I thought I'm really leaning towards HR as a career. And I saw a position advertised for a graduate trainee at Toyota. And that's how my career started. And probably the first time I really understood the power of developing people was on my graduate program when I first started. And we started to be taught subjects like project management, problem solving. And at that age, 21 years old, you're very malleable. So I learned that. And then as the company was growing and we were hiring more and more people, I very quickly realized that Toyota had given me skills that people who were coming as experienced HR professionals didn't have. So you can see straight away there's an advantage, a competitive advantage in investing in your people and getting the most out of them. So that's kind of where it started from. And then I've been with Toyota for over 30 years now. So I've had the luxury of seeing the people who, in my early career, I was a recruiter for a period of time. So lots and lots of interviews. So I bump into people now today who I hired, 25, 30 years ago. And they're in, positions of real responsibility and authority. And you look at them. So I remember when you joined as a member onto the line. And so we've all kind of grown up together and been through that journey together. So I think probably I have a unique perspective on what investing in your people can really give you, particularly over the long term.
Yeah, it's amazing. What one of your guys said to me earlier, you don't build cars, you build people who build cars. And I thought that was brilliant. And it's a very structured approach for how you integrate people into Toyota and take them through a very documented and detailed path.
Yeah.
How has that structure been set up, and has it always been like that?
I think, it's evolved a lot with time, and the emphasis has changed a little bit with our own learning. But where we started from, people come into an induction, it's very standardized. It tells them about the major missions, so they'll learn how to be safe in the factory. They'll learn about the importance of good environmental performance, quality, how to produce efficiently. We'll then take them for the production members. They'll go into a dojo or training centre. They'll start to learn the fundamental skills. So a practical example is you'll see a new member come in, you'll give them an earth tool, you'll teach them how to fit a bolt to the vehicle. And most people, of course, will go for their first finger. But if you do that all day, every day, the chances are that you'll develop maybe something like trigger finger. Actually, you want to use your second finger.
So that's the level you go to. That's
yeah,
detail.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for some components we fit to the vehicle, because there's a risk of damaging a high value component or affecting the performance or quality of the car, we will hand start certain bolts. yeah, so that we don't ever cross-thread them and damage the vehicle body or the component that we're fitted. So that is the level of detail that our trainers will go to help someone start to build an appreciation of how much influence they've got over making a good vehicle for the customer.
And how long from somebody becomes an apprentice until they're actually operating on the line? How many weeks training? Or
it varies person by person and process by process. So what would be normal would probably be around about 6 weeks in total to get to a point where a member was fully self-sufficient on one process. There are some jobs where the lead time for the training is a bit longer. So if you get to see things like the sealer deck in paint shop, to learn the muscle movement to apply and finish the sealer correctly, that can take 8 to 12 weeks for someone to get that process under their belt.
I'm just comparing this straight away with SMEs.
Yeah.
You know, I know in our company and loads of companies that are watching this podcast, they bring on a new person and they're on the shop floor the next day. You know, at Toyota, this 6, 7, up to 12 weeks training, it's really incredible, and that's why you're getting good results.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we've learned, and it hasn't always been by doing things correctly, but one of the things we've learned is that start of someone's career here is really important. Yeah, if people can get to a point where they can feel that they're skilled and they're contributing, that gives them the best possible foundation for their long-term career. If we just chuck somebody onto a process and leave them in an environment where they're a little bit sink or swim, then we're not investing in that person. And equally, we can't expect that person to fully invest in what we want for them. So it's a two-way street.
Well, one thing that, you know, for us who's been here for years, it's normal for us to be moved around from job to job, department to department. And specifically relevant to yourself, Liam, you've already told ourselves and the audience that your background is people education through university. You came in as a graduate through HR. You spent a vast part of your early years within human resources.
Yeah.
And then you move years to senior manager of assembly.
Yeah.
What's our philosophy on that as a business? That kind of why do we do that? What do we do that for?
I value the rotation of people and the growth of skill in the long term. And because of that, obviously, it's important when there's an opportunity, I should do that myself. And I should show other people that there's nothing to be fearful of from trying different things. But there are times where we really need that versatility. So if I give you a practical example, if I look back to COVID, which was generally a very difficult time for the whole of society, we were in a position where we could continue to operate only because we had that versatility in people. So at that time, I was in paint shop and I had members in paint shop who had come formerly from assembly. We've got people who were forklift trained. We've got people who were paint inspectors who could support with quality assurance. And we've got people who were trained repairers who could help with places like plastics. So because my attendance in paint shop happened to be particularly good, I could lend people to the rest of the plant. We could level out our labour and the plant could continue to perform collectively at a good level. If we didn't have that skill, then very simply, I'd have been able to produce in paint, but everywhere else in the plant would have been close to stopping point. So versatility, it's powerful for the individual because it opens doors for their development for the future. But it's also powerful for the business in terms of being an element that allows continuity of business operation.
Something I've noticed, and this is my first time, I think, coming here.
Yeah.
And every time I come here, I just, there's a real family feeling here. There really is. And in our company, we only have like 70, 80 people. We have a family feeling because we're so small. But you've been able to create this family feeling in an organisation with 2,500 people.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
It goes back to the origin, the original sort of Toyota way. And a lot of people who follow Lean will have heard terms like respect for people. And that has quite a deep meaning in Toyota. And you'll often hear people in Toyota talk about a word, mendomi, which in essence is really translated as kind of care for people. Mendomi, yeah. So it's Japanese word, but when someone says that, we all inherently know we're talking about caring for our people. So we've set up, and we owe a debt of gratitude to the first generation management team who set this plant up, but we originally put in place pay and benefits arrangements that were designed to be long-term. We put in place common arrangements for everybody. So we've all got access to things like the same car scheme, the same healthcare scheme, the same pension scheme. It doesn't particularly differentiate by grade, to try and remove some of the barriers that you might traditionally come across in a British manufacturing industry. We don't have a management car park, we don't have a management restaurant or anything like that. We should be talking and spending time with the members, listening to their concerns and doing what we can to help make their working life here and make their process as easy as it can be.
Yeah.
And then we extend our view of family. We have events that we run from time to time. We'll be doing one in a couple of months where we'll open a site up for members to bring their children, their families here, see their place of work, admire the products that we make. We'll put on things like fun fair rides for the kids, and there'll be tours around the shops with quizzes and activities for the children to get involved in, because we recognise that work is actually the biggest portion of time that people spend in their waking life. We spend more time at work than we do at home with our families. So it's important that that time is meaningful. Where it can be, it should be enjoyable, and that people should feel valued in their work. We can't, literally without the members that work here, we can't achieve anything. We can't build a car without them. So that's our appreciation of how important every person is to the success of our business.
I love about that is everything you're saying is things that SMEs can do.
Yeah.
An SME can open their doors and invite family members, and an SME can have a fun day, an SME can do quizzes. It's all thing, and although you're doing it on a massive scale, all these same principles are applicable to small business.
Probably one other thing that we've learned is about that also it should benefit from having some structure. So there are maybe certain points in people's career where that person maybe needs a bit more care or a bit more attention. Now, that can be as simple as someone's going through, a major life event away from work and they need some flexibility, or just that their supervision is understanding and supportive at work. It might be that someone started a journey towards a promotion and that they need some development and education towards a role that they're going to move into in the future. So, we take a great deal of care to think about what people might need and benefit from at different stages of their working life.
One of the things that we know through working with Tierney Management Centre, we get lots of different companies coming in. We get blue chip, we get SMEs. And one of the things when we take them through our full management development style Obeya, we give them an overview of how we give at each level of the organisation some emotional intelligence training. It's something that really interests people, and it's something that really blows organisations away that we go to that level. Why do Toyota invest time in giving people emotional intelligence training?
If you go back in time, what we've learned over 30 years about developing people, but in the early years of the business, we focused quite strongly on technical skills, the skills needed to build a car, maintain the equipment, look after materials, assure quality. And of course, doing that will get your performance to a certain level. Beyond that, getting the discretional effort from members, getting the Kaizen, getting people support for new activities, that often boils down to good communication and good leadership. And it's not enough just to rely on the technical side to deliver that. So for a long time, we've invested at different levels of the organisation in coaching skills, emotional intelligence. We've done a lot of work around things like listening skills. We had in the past a tendency to perhaps at times interrupt when people were speaking or presenting. That's unhelpful. It undermines people. We've taken that away from how we operate. You need to listen more to the person who's speaking. So there's lots and lots of ways where you can improve your engagement with your members. And we see a value in that. We probably dabbled originally with the management team with elements of coaching training. And then we came to a conclusion that this was something that had real value to our business and real value to our members. And we now offer it a different intervention, but at every level of the organisation.
And I think that's really important, because in terms of success within Lean, first of all, your organisation's got to be right. Then the training of the people within the organisation's got to be right. I suppose you've also got to have the right number of people with the right skills. And I know from some brief discussions, and again, hopefully you'll share, we have the situation at TM UK at the minute is we have like a bathtub effect in terms of age demographic. So we have lots of younger workers. We have people of an age that are coming up to retirement soon, and not much in between. How are we going to manage that?
So we had that, what you described there, Paul, that's a consequence of the sort of post-Lehman environment. Right. So 2008 and for a period afterwards, where, your average consumer wasn't really thinking to go out and buy a car, because most people, at that point in time, it was unaffordable for them to consider that. So volume dropped, takt time slowed down, our headcount reduced accordingly. So we weren't hiring so many people for a number of years. And then we started to think more and more about the real long-term future. And I think for those of us that have invested, a huge portion of our working lives in this business, we absolutely owe a responsibility to the next generation that we set things up for them to continue to be successful into the future. So we started to then think about the need to onboard and train some younger members, hopefully our successors for the future. We started to open up things like apprenticeship programs for both production and maintenance to give people perhaps an accelerated start to their learning and their career. And similarly, in office areas, we have hired, we brought in a number of experienced specialists and engineers into the professional areas. But equally, we've had quite large graduate intakes over recent years, with a view to developing the skill and competence of that next generation. And we're doing that in the understanding that it's likely to be the case that many of those people could see themselves having career progression that perhaps might even be faster than those of us that were here when the plant first started. Because as we retire, and hopefully, if we secure new investment for a new product, with the volume and the retirements, it will cause quite significant growth in the business quite quickly.
So I guess that kind of motivates, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that people are going to come here, they've got aspirational motivation that actually there's some chance for me to get promoted and progress through the company much as we have, and give them something at a long-term goal. We talk about long-term stable employment. And I think we spoke briefly about not everybody in any organisation want to get promoted, or they don't want progression, which is fine, I guess. So we don't want everybody that don't want it. Everyone's got their own motivation. But what we do is we give everybody the opportunity to progress if they want. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. I think when we look at our organisation, we've got people, at director level who started as a team member on process, and how someone joins a company isn't at all a measure of their capability. What we see is how that person learns and grows and can contribute in different ways through their career. And everybody has a chance to do that. And as you say, not everyone necessarily wants to be a leader of people, but some people can bring with them phenomenal technical expertise. And if I look at the time we spent together in assembly for the model change, the team that were working on things like the process design, the equipment installation, some of those people had fantastic technical capabilities, and they set up a foundation where we could have a successful model launch and basically go on to enjoy, many years of successful Corolla production. So, every single person can make a contribution in their own way. We just have to listen and hear what's right for them and try and find a way of delivering it.
We were just standing earlier watching the line, and every time I come here, I just love standing and watching, at final assembly, all the parts coming together. Some people say Seat Matters is Disneyland for Lean people, but this is Disney World. This is Disney World for Lean people. And one of the things we noticed, and we were talking about as we were just watching the line, was that there seems to be loads of support for the members. How is that member team leader structure set up? How many members is one team leader responsible for it?
Okay, so it does vary by process area. So roughly speaking, an average size group will be about 25 members. You'll have one group leader, normally 14 leaders, and around 20 team members, and there'll be 20 processes in the group. So in terms of then how we of course, the members predominantly are working on the process. For the team leaders, normally we'll design the line in a way, two of the team leaders would often be covering for members. So that's things like holiday or sickness absence. And then two of the team leaders would cover the line. So normally they'll be answering the hand-on for about 10 processes each. That's fairly standard. Right now, we are hiring some new members. So basically we've got in assembly, we have a small training organisation. So there are some additional members who will be spending time with those new hires, helping to make sure that they settle in well and that they're educated the right way and that we support them to get them to where they want to be in the right manner.
So really there's loads and loads of support for the person on the Gemba adding the value. So there's loads of, back where everybody seems to be here to support the person that's doing the job.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely. I mean, our ethos is, for all of the rest of us, there's no reason for us to be here without the member on the line. They're the reason why functions like HR exist. Yeah. So where all of us are very mindful, that is our basic reason for being. And if we can't provide a good service to manufacturing, to the members, then we've failed and we've let them down.
And I think, when we showed you last time you came, when you come into assembly shop, we've got the Hall of Fame with how long people have been here. And that's only growing, isn't it? We've got the wall up to 30 years. We've got, must be 40, 50, 60 people have been here 30 years plus. Yes. That shows because it's a good place to work. It's challenging for us, isn't it? It's not easy, but it challenges, it stretches us, it develops us. Yeah. And that's why so many people stay.
So every time I come here, I'm blown away. I just understand what you're doing at a deeper level. And it's no coincidence that Toyota is the best manufacturer in the world. And it's really because you've got the best people development system in the world. Would you agree with that?
I would agree partly. I would say we've got an excellent development system. However, it's also really important that we never give up. Yeah. We always look for the opportunities to improve. Yeah. And, there are some areas where we can strengthen. So as an example, already we're looking at how we're using things like digital skills, how we're using AI. There are opportunities there that we're not necessarily taking advantage of at this point in time, certainly not fully taking advantage of. So we will never be the finished article. Always there will be an opportunity to improve. We just have to find it and find a way of turning it into a reality. So I welcome your comments. I think we do a good job, but basically, we should never view ourselves as being excellent or perfect.
Thank you, Liam. Thanks very much for your time. And what you've just said, I think that's why people love and respect Toyota so much. So this has been an amazing conversation. If anybody would like to get in touch with TLMC, and this is probably new to some people, the fact that Toyota actually invite people here on courses and you actually teach what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of companies don't know that service is available. I've learned so much from coming here over the years, and Toyota are opening up their doors. So visit TLMC if you'd like to come and experience what we're experiencing today. So thanks very much, and thanks for having us.
Thanks, Liam. Thank you.